And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. Onward to the next topic in this short series of videos. If you are just joining us here, this is a discussion of the theories and suppositions regarding the final chapter of the Little Nightmares DLC, Secrets of the Maw. In the last video, we discussed the possibility that not all gnomes are kids, but some kids become gnomes. This time, I want to address the next new anomaly, the shadow children. I've seen some comments floating around that the shadow kids might be what's left of the kids when they are turned into gnomes. This idea suggests that the soul or spirit or whatever of the child is separated from its body, and then the body is somehow transformed into a gnome, and then the soul, now left without a body to inhabit, is forced to wander around the maw. However, I think there's something more to it than just this, and I'm not sure if I buy that it's related to the gnomes at all. Here's what I think. The part about the soul being removed from a kid might be correct. However, I don't think this is the work of the gnomification process we saw for the runaway kid. I think there's something much worse in this business. All the children sleep in a shared room with a sort of low-quality pipe frame bed going on. They all wear the same basic clothes for the most part, and they eat in a sort of large room full of tables. The runaway kid has a literal shackle on his foot. This place might be a juvenile correctional facility. There's even rooms with doors on them that have little viewing windows, just like a solitary confinement cell might have. And there's those large communal shower areas as well. This place could very well be a prison in which the kids are locked by the lady, or whomever is really running the situation, and in which they may very well die. Well, in a previous video, I asserted that when a child dies on the maw, its ghost can't escape, and becomes attached to one of the gnomes, and that's why they have the child shadows. While this was just supposition to offer an alternative to the prevailing theory at the time, I think this is actually a closer explanation to what may be happening with the shadow kids. Let's look at the anatomy of the shadow kid. They aren't actually made of shadow. Even in a universe like this one, it follows some specific reality-based rules. Shadows are by their nature two-dimensional, so anything with a physical form cannot be made of shadow. They seem instead to be made of some kind of photosensitive cloud. We've seen this kind of cloud before, actually, in the statues that Six can break. They release this little wisp of that same kind of purplish blackish cloud, which implies that they are vessels for this sort of misty existence. The kids also have these porcelain masks that break when they hit the ground after the kid's body has been dispersed using the flashlight. So bear with me here. The lady has an extensive collection of porcelain dolls, which we see at the beginning of the residence bit. We also know that she wears a porcelain mask herself. This is an interesting parallel between these two types of beings. We have the assumption that the lady wears a mask because she's ashamed of her face, but then why do the shadow kids wear them? I'll be honest, I don't quite have an answer for that one just yet. My initial idea is that if they're created by the lady's machinations, then they might have a mirror unto their creator, but I'm not sure I know just yet. What are your theories about this? Go ahead and tell me in the comments, because I'm interested in it. But anyway, back to the point at hand, those little statues that Six breaks, right? They could possibly be containers for ashes, like a funerary urn. That's why the wisp sort of dissipates how it does. It's ash spreading into the air. The shadow kids could very well be this same kind of thing. Ash clouds in the shape of a child, dispersed by light because the thing that holds it together is magically sensitive to light for thematic reasons or whatever. Why do I think ash? Well, friends, it's because of this room. Okay, here we go. We're doing this. Oh my god, we actually had a secret! Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god. Look at this. These kids, they've been turned into like ash. This is rad. Holy crap. All right, I guess let's break this thing, shall we? Achievement unlocked, ashes to ashes. 'Cause yeah, like, look, all of these kids are ashes. This whole room is full of ash. The achievement you get when finding this secret room is called Ashes to Ashes. It's obviously some kind of, like, shrine to someone or thing. What is the significance of this room? Why are there so many kids made of ash in here? How is the ash, like, crawling up the wall so high? What is the deal with the painting? There's so many references to fire and burning and stuff in this game that things are starting to add up. Put all these pieces together, and here's what I think happened. In the Ghostbusters comics, bear with me, there is a ghost called Ellen Gold, who was the proprietor of an orphanage, who she locked the doors to the orphanage one day and then the whole thing burned down with her and all the kids inside. And so when she came back as a ghost, she was like, her ghost body was filled with the smaller ghosts of the dead children that were inside. And there was a little storyline where like one of the children from the orphanage there escaped to a new house or something as a ghost and just wanted to sit and watch TV, and that was cute. But this might be something similar to that. Let's say the lady used to be a caretaker of sorts, possibly at like an orphanage or a boarding school of some sort that the maw maybe acted as. The maw itself is a vessel that uses coal power to function, so its furnaces must constantly be stoked by this coal to have the engines running, and that means fire. Hot fire. So one day while the maw was doing its thing, maybe a fire broke out down in the lower bits of the maw. It claimed the lives of several of the people on the maw, children and workers alike, and may have perhaps even affected the lady. She lost a number of children for whom she was caring, and as a result of the fire, they took to flooding the entire bottom of the maw to put it out and keep the rest of the maw safe. But the lady, having rushed down to try to rescue some of the children, may have gotten burned on her face. With that burn on her face, she started to lose her grip and became obsessed with maintaining that beauty that she once had. This is when she started to wear the mask. Her face became blemished and, well, we can't have that now, can we? The children she lost down in the fire were enshrined in these Ashes to Ashes room as a sign of the respect and mourning for them. However, as time passed, the lady maybe began to blame the children for her disfigurement. After all, had it not been for those wretched little urchins, she would never have been forced to go down there and would have been safe from the fire. This blame grew into hatred, which accompanied the paranoia that she was already getting. This also plays well into all the older theories about why the lady wears a mask, and why she only had people on the maw who were objectively uglier than her. I have half a mind to think that she actually painted the terrifying screaming void soul thing painting in that room as well, before she went completely mad and was just in the process of losing her sanity. I mean, it looks nothing like any of the other art we see on the maw, and it's hidden away in this secret room. This may have been the effect of the lady sort of remembering the children who perished in the fire, being haunted by them, and then trying to express it to get it out of her mind. She had to eventually hide away the reminders of the tragedy that drove her crazy by putting them in a secret room behind a bookshelf. So the urn, the kids that are in that room, are ashes of the children that were killed in the fire, and the shadow kids are the manifestations of the lady's own madness and guilt over that loss. That's why they only show up in the lady's quarters, and only in the dark. They are the lady's actual little nightmares. We know that the lady has these magic powers, and that nobody else has them on the maw as far as we know. Well, until the end at least. But it's not far-fetched to say that her madness could possibly manifest through her psychic powers without her doing it on purpose. And what better way for her own mind to torment her than by showing her the ashes of the kids that died, wearing a face that is shockingly like the one that she wears. This also explains their behavior, chasing the runaway kid and diving headfirst into his body, possessing him and killing him just like the telekinetic hold that the lady has. It's very similar to her power set. Plus, the images of the manifestation of a dead child trying to re-enter a physical body make sense because a trapped and tormented disembodied soul would see a living body and want to be back in it. Any contact with that warm, functioning body would be enough for them to jump inside, but the runaway kid's soul is still inhabiting that body. And that's why the telekinetic lift happens. It's the lady's power set, where she kills you, presumably by ripping out your life essence, just like we see Six do at the end of the game. A lot of this could make sense if this is the frame we use for it. The Ma was some kind of boarding school or the like, where the lady was the governess of the school. We already know that the pictures of her are labeled governess when you download them from the official Tarsier website. So she runs this school for the kids or whatever, presumably to teach them how to be servants for the people who come to the Ma. The Ma at this point had to have been some kind of, like, actual functioning guest resort or some such. Think about how cool it would be to go to this, like, giant sub-ocean resort where you just eat food and sleep and lounge and be decadent. That's possibly what the Ma was beforehand. Who knows? But at some point this tragic fire happens, which changes the way the lady runs the Ma such that the insanity begins. The lady's powers start to go haywire, and the manifestations of the Shadow Kids as clouds of ash begin emanating from the lady, probably while she's asleep and as a result of her guilt mixed with her madness. And presto, that's where we are now. That's an explanation of what the Shadow Kids could be. The Shadow Kids are the manifestations of the lady's guilt at letting so many children die in the fire, whereupon she enshrined the remains of many of those children in the Ashes to Ashes room. While this might not be the full explanation, it's definitely an interesting way to link a lot of the pieces we have together. So obviously take it with a grain of salt, because there's not a lot of proof for this, it's just some wild speculation that ties together some of the pieces that we have. But it would explain a lot. Anyway, thank you guys very much for coming and watching and listening to this theory. Of course, this is just a theory, so do not take it to be like 100% truthful until we have some kind of actual mouth of God confirmation for anything. But special thank you again to the people who support me on Patreon. You guys are the super best. If you guys have some fan art or anything that you want to send me, I will totally put it up at the end of these videos. You can tag it, hashtag arcane static or something, I guess. Yeah, that'll do. Hashtag arcane static at the end of a tweet somewhere, or you can post it in the Discord. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.